Hello YouTube, this is Froogle. Welcome back to the third and final part of our first impressions look at the Flight Factor 757 for X-Plane. So we're well on our way now into Zurich. Top of descent is actually about 80 miles away, which is a little early to be planning descent normally, but as many of you have seen on my previous videos, I tend to do it a little early to give me a chance to talk you through what's going on. So Zurich is actually a very interesting airport because it's nestled just to the southwest and south of the Alps and also the border with Germany and Austria. So what happens is to get into Zurich you actually fly just out of German airspace, then you're into Swiss airspace. If you keep going the direction you normally go for the route that we're flying, you will end up in Austrian airspace. Now the Zurich airport, Lima Sierra Zulu Hotel, is actually very, very close to the German airspace. So what's going to happen for this approach is we're going to fly the TRA, that's Tango Romeo Alpha 1 Zulu star, which takes us away from the German border well into Switzerland, at which point we turn back, we actually double back towards the airport and then make a left-hand turn onto our runway. Now the weather conditions have changed a little bit. Let me see if I can find the weather report. We have a light wind now, 4 knots. At 170, we have broken clouds, a few clouds at 800 feet, broken clouds at 6,500 feet. So we're now going to be landing on runway 16, so southeast-ish. And what we're going to do at this point then is bring up the FMC and plan our actual transition and our star and our approach onto that runway and set everything up. So the first thing to do is open this up. I'm going to move this to the side. Let's go onto our legs page here. Make sure before we go any further that nothing gets broken, which isn't. Our final waypoint is TRA, Tango Romeo Alpha, which is correct. So departures and arrivals, we are going to be arriving via Tango Romeo Alpha 1 Zulu. We are transitioning, or we're going to land on runway ILS 16, transitioning via Amiki. Now what I will do at this point is I will zoom the navigation display, or reduce the range somewhat. There we go. Down to there. We will execute this, and I'll put this into step mode. Now what I can do, or sorry, plan mode, what I can do now is I can actually click on legs. Let's just go through and make sure we don't have any disconnects, which we don't. So we'll click on legs here. Back to the first page. And we should be able to step it. You can see here the waypoints changing. So if I click on this LSK here, there's DIK 22 down to Sutal, GTQ, Bega, Lengi. Now that's Germany. The next waypoint is just about inside Switzerland. Notice that we go all the way out to Amiki. Then we're actually going to turn back, go all the way up there, and then fly the approach onto 16. It's a very, very strange approach because German airspace is here and all around here. So you actually fly all the way in, then turn around. Now looking at the charts here, our initial altitude constraint is 7,000. So that's what we're going to be feeding in for the descent onto the MCP. Let's put this back into map mode. Still getting used to these switches. I really don't like the way these buttons and knobs work here. Okay, so let's go to the descent page. Go to the forecast page. Everything looks good. Descent. Okay, everything looks great there. And then after that, let's check out the init ref page. That's going to be onto the landing page right now, which it is. We're going to be landing at flaps 30, which is giving us a VREF of 131. Now, VREF is the speed that we want to be at, approximately 500 feet above the ground. It's not our approach speed. So we'll probably be approaching a little bit faster than that. We'll add 20 to that, so 151 is our final approach speed, and we'll be slowing down to 151. There's the ILS, it's 110.50, and the course is 154 degrees. So we'll make a note of all those, and VREF there is 131. Okay. Okay, so we're 40 miles out now from top of descent, so now is the time to run through the descent checklist. So we want to set pressurization up for landing. Well, the runway elevation is 1,400 feet, so our landing altitude is 2,000 feet, which is just fine. Next on the checklist, let's do check on that. Next on the checklist, recall. Let's go and check on that. No warnings, nothing going on there. Auto brake. I'm going to be using auto brake level 2. If I can get that, there we go. Auto brake level 2. VREF is 131, we already saw that, so we're good there. Our approach briefing, as I said, we're following the Tango Romeo Alpha 1 Zulu star, transitioning via Amiki. and then landing on runway 16. If we have to go around, if we have to execute a missed approach, then we will be climbing on a heading of 154 to 5,000 feet at 2 miles away from the ILS, 2.2 miles away DME. We will turn left, no more than 210 knots, and we will intercept the 035 radial 215 to Zulu Uniform Echo, and then we will hold. But that's not going to happen. It's just handy to know, but that's not going to happen. So we're all good on the approach briefing. Check. Let's go ahead and make sure everything is still good down here. Yes, our VRAP speeds are good. Let's check on our transition level, which is 7,000 feet. 070, so we're all good there. Let's set in that 7,000, which is our first altitude constraint, here. That pretty much authorizes VNAV to start the descent when it reaches the appropriate point. And when we've done that, we'll go down to the ILS panel and set in the ILS ready for landing. There. So let's head on down to the ILS panel. Here. Now ILS is 110.5, and that is India Zulu Hotel. 110.5. I went too far, and the heading is 154 degrees. Let's just hold that down. This one rotates pretty fast. If we were flying online or with ATC at this point, we would dial in the radios that we're going to need. So Zurich arrival is 118.0. We could set that in up here if we wanted to. I'm sorry, my apologies, 120.75. That would be approach. And then final 125.32. And of course ATIS on 125.725. Like so. So radios are all set, ILS is all set. We've set in our altitude, less than 20 miles to go. When we hit our top of the descent, the aircraft should slow down, nose over, and begin a VNAV managed descent down to the Tango Romeo Alpha waypoint, at which point it's going to get very interesting. Notice the throttles have come up already. Trying to get the speed down, ready to manage that descent. Let's take a look outside while we're waiting. Now I'm using the meshes, the global meshes from alpilotx.net, which are completely free, very high resolution, very high definition, amazing meshes that completely transform the scenery. So currently we're still in Germany. We will turn left at Bega, heading out towards the Alps, and that will be our transition out of Germany and into Swiss airspace, heading towards Austrian airspace. And as I explained a little while ago, the trick is going to be to remain in Swiss airspace. Now, a few people have mentioned in the comments on the previous videos, winglets are wrong on this. Yes, they are. There's actually an option on this aircraft that you can turn on. So if we go up to 757 and bring up that general thing, you can see here, there's winglets. You can turn them on or off. I prefer flying with winglets. I prefer the flight characteristics that they give me, the fuel efficiencies they give me. So I've turned them on. I know it's not incredibly accurate for an early 80s British Airways 757 to have winglets. I like them. That's the beauty of simulation, that we can do things that we wouldn't normally be able to do in the real world. So as we descend now through 27,000 feet, there's our vertical path. We're currently 100 feet too high. Starting to intercept that vertical path now. This is our speed here, so we're pretty much where we need to be on the speed. Getting some moisture outside as well. Given the temperatures, I have the anti-ice on. Still got the speed brakes out. "50 feet above our required altitude at this point in the descent. 30 feet. Now we've intercepted our vertical profile. You can see we've got a magenta arrow up here as well. Okay, so we're 20 miles away from Amiki. We need to be at 7,000 feet at that point. We're at 21,000 feet. So what we're going to do is put in a hold here and descend in that hold at Amiki. So clicking on hold, click on Amiki. Whoops. There we are. Put Amiki in there and execute. So now we're going to hold at Amiki as we descend down to 7,000 feet. Once we're at 7,000, we'll authorize a descent down to 5,000 feet and turn back towards TRA, ready for our final approach. So we're in our hold now, 15,000 feet, descending to 7,000. Descending at about 1,800 feet per minute, which is great. Everything looks good. It is still raining. We still have a bit of moisture hitting the windshield. We're not going to turn on the wipers. Don't really need to. At this stage of the flight, I don't really need to see anything. It's all instrument right now. If it's still raining on the final approach, then we'll turn on the wipers, and they actually work in X-Plane. The one thing that doesn't work, though, is seasonal transitions. So although it's winter, the Swiss Alps here looking very green and lush instead of snowy and white. But that's okay. So we'll just hold this hold until we hit 7,000, then we'll do a direct to Zulu Uniform Echo, descending to 5,000 and begin our actual approach. As we approach 12,000 here, let's look at the navigation display. Notice it looks a little bit confusing. It's not that confusing. We're in a hold around Amiki. Once we exit the hold, we're going to go direct to Zulu Uniform Echo, which will then have us turn left and then right finals to runway 16 in Zurich. The line here is actually our go-around, so if we were to execute a missed approach on our approach to Zurich, we'd actually climb out to an altitude of 5,000 and then turn right and head out to Zurich. Sorry, not Zurich. That is Zurich, isn't it? Zulu Uniform Echo, and the hold's there, and await further instructions. Now, based on our current flight plan, you can actually see Zurich right here. We're actually using Aerosoft's phenomenal Zurich airport scenery, which you'll see obviously when we get on the ground. It's very, very detailed. So 11,500 feet, getting ready for our 10,000 foot flows, which will be lights on. Now obviously we're not using ATC or VATSIM, so I don't have ATIS. I can't call in and find out the pressure settings, which is why I've got this readout still displayed at the top here. Currently we're seeing a surface level pressure of 3012. We will set that when we get down to 7,000. Another good reason to be on a hold at this point, incidentally. It gives us some time, in the absence of any other traffic or air traffic control telling us off, gives us some time to set that all in. By the way, if we were flying in here with air traffic control, like on VATSIM, or even an automated air traffic control, we would have probably flown a different descent profile. We would have been vectored in. So rather than having to do this rather convoluted approach, we probably would have been told to descend somewhat earlier. We would have been vectored onto an approach probably over here on the navigation display, about 20 miles out, and then turning into runway 16 in Zurich. Slowing down now at 10,000 feet, so lights on. Now, taking the aircraft out of VNAV at this point, I'm going to manage everything myself in terms of the speed and the altitude. I just feel more comfortable with that. So pop this open. We're going to exit the hold. Exit is armed. Which means next time around we should exit and head straight to Zulu Uniform Echo. Now, Zulu Uniform Echo also has an altitude constraint of 7,000, so we're not going to descend just yet. Once we hit that, though, we'll start descending down to 6,000, 5,000, and then we'll be on track for our landing. So here we are now exiting the hold. To bring up the legs, you can see now we are direct to Zulu Uniform Echo. 7,000 feet at that point. 6,000 after it. We'll turn the wipers on now. It's going to be handy to see what's going on. Just put them on low. Okay, so we're starting our turn. Let's go down to 6,000. And we'll go first stage of flaps. Flaps moving there. Now once we hit Zulu Hotel 702, we'll descend to 5,000 for this waypoint, and then down to 4,000 for this waypoint, which is our approach. Let's put the wipers back on. The weather is all over the place here in Zurich today. Now Zurich Airport is off to our left. Can't get a good view of it right now because of all the rain. As we start this left turn, we're going to slow to 180, put the next stage of flaps out. At flaps 15, we'll be geared down. Start bringing the speed down now. Best has changed the speed before we start our descent. Obviously we're going to pick up speed in the descent. So there, next stage of flaps. You see the flap movement. Starting our turn now, so let's descend. And the next waypoint will descend again. Change the range now. A little bit off on the navigation display, and I think that's how I aligned the IRSs. Back in Amsterdam, so that's all my fault. Okay, so let's authorize this down now to 4,000. Next stage of flaps is flaps 15, which we will do shortly. Ignore the warnings. Very mountainous terrain around here. Alright, flaps 15. Let's switch this into ILS now. Arm localizer. Once we come out of this turn, you see the localizer is active already. Just going to hold 4,000 now until we intercept the glide slope. Localizer alive. "12 miles out." Just watching the glide slope here now. Again, warnings all over the place because of the mountainous terrain here. Glide slope just became active. Just dialing our current, or our intended heading, 154. Ready for the go around if we have to. Which we won't. Alright, glide slope active. Arm approach. So flaps 15, gear down. Let's arm the speed brake. Eight miles to go. Runway in sight. So next stage of flaps. Start bringing the speed down again. And then ready for the final stage of flaps. And our VREF again is 131. So 1,400 foot elevation for the runway. So we're about 2,000 feet up right now. Let's get ready to disarm the autopilot and hopefully not wreck the entire video. There we go, autopilot's disarmed. Still running on the auto throttle. Final stage of flaps, landing flaps. And I have control. Back? No, I don't. Let's try that once again. Now I have control. So a little off to the right. A little bit high. Landing. Alright, that's the flare.
20, 10.
And reverses. So 80 knots, reverses off. let's take the high-speed exit here. And we will take a look at the replay. As we taxi in. So let's just taxi in first, and then we'll take a look at the replay. So there we go. That is our flight from Amsterdam to Zurich. Now, I like this aircraft a lot. It's kind of on that cusp of old school, so not quite DC-9 style old school, not quite 737NG in terms of automation and technology. So it's a bit of a challenge. It has some quirks. I think many of them are due more to X-Plane actually than Flight Factor's incredible work. I don't like the way that you twist the knobs in this. I've never have in X-Plane. It's just one of those things. I don't like the safety covers on some of the switches on the overhead that you have to click and hold to move them instead of just clicking. And some of the autopilot systems, autoflight systems have little quirks which take a little getting used to, but ultimately it is a study aircraft. Every bit like the PMDG series of aircraft, it is a full study aircraft supplied with complete Boeing manuals, FCOMs, flight crew training manuals, QRHs and so on. You need to spend the time studying this. I've spent quite a bit of time with it. I am nowhere near an expert on this yet, as you've just seen, but I'm getting there. If you have X-Plane and you're looking for a challenging airliner, this one. Get this one. I think this one more than the 777 in fact. I know Ramses' 777 from the same guys that did this aircraft is amazing. This one is harder. This one is even more of a challenge than that aircraft. I would thoroughly recommend this. Anyway, let's see if we can taxi this to the gate. And then I will pop open the replay and we can take a look at that landing, which I think was pretty good. I turned a little bit too early there. And again, this is Aerosoft Zurich scenery. Really good scenery, really high quality. I actually prefer the X-Plane version of this to the FSX version of this. I have both. There we go, we got there eventually in terms of lining up. A phenomenal aircraft. Anyway, thank you for watching. As always, my name is Froogle. If you've not checked it out already, do go and look at facebook.com/FroogleSim, where you get behind the scenes information on these videos, what's coming up, and the opportunity to talk to me, or follow me on Twitter. That's @Froogle. Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon.